the same thread. I'm going to use the white UTC in 70. I'm going to start up just by the head, just like I did on my other fly. I am going to use some different colors in super hair though. I'm going to use brown super hair.
Is that the same size? Did you do the other one?
Yeah, 18s. I use a lot of 18s. Charlie ties them in 20s and 22s, and I mean they work great. But this fly, since it's got a fair amount going on it, for most guys, once you start getting into the 22 range, Jujubaetis gets awful tough for them. An 18 works really well for me. It's a lot like a pheasant tail. I use a lot of 18s. So I use 2 strands of brown, 1 strand of black. Actually, before I do that, I gotta tie in the tail. But I'll get this out anyways.
What size hook do you use, Chris?
18. And I tie it on that same 24.99 SP. You can use a 24.88 if you'd like, but that SP hook is so much sharper.
What brand is it?
It's a Tiemco. We have them over there. Oh, come on. Sometimes it's a bit of a challenge just getting one fiber out of the clump of super hair. There we go. So first we'll do the tail. You can use a lot of different things for a tail on a Jujubaetis. You can use hen, you can use partridge, you can use tailing fibers, you can use just straight hackle. I use partridge mainly because I like the pattern partridge has. It has some modeling to it, has a little bit of brown in it. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's got all kinds of colors in there. That's what I like. So basically what I do is I just measure out about how long I want the tail to be, and then I pinch it off there and start wrapping down the hook. And the reason I do this, the reason I don't lay a thread base down first and then put the tail in, because I don't want to wrap up and down the shank of the hook more than I have to. The more times you go back and forth, the more thread you're going to build up and the thicker the body gets. So I try to minimize the amount of times I have to go back and forth. So with the tail in, you can see I wrapped a little bit down the hook shank, but not as far as I did with that buzzer fly. I went just barely down the curve. I'm going to take my super hair, all 3 strands, 2 strands brown, 1 strand of black. I'm going to tie that in at the rear and wrap forward nice and smooth. And I'll try to get those fibers to kind of hang off to the side to give it a bit of a wider profile rather than a taller profile.
What was the hackle that you used? I'm sorry.
For the tails?
Yeah.
Partridge. And you can buy them in skins, you can buy it pre-stripped, either way. And I trim the ends of that super hair, and I actually do want to build up somewhat of a taper up here by the head in the thorax area. I won't go all the way back down to the body or the butt, but I will build up a little bit there, just like that. And I take my super hair and I use that same trick. I wrap it forward a little bit and then use my fingernail to push it back just a hair. And that has made my life so much easier wrapping these things. And you can also, every once in a while, you can see I make a bad wrap here and there. You can use your finger to maneuver it around.
You know, Craven had that little trick too in that book you guys just got in.
What is he uses the same trick, or?
He says to spin that stuff 90 degrees to the floor instead of 90 degrees to the hook man, and it keeps them tighter together.
90 degrees to the floor.
Like just to the floor, even though you're following all the different.
Oh yeah, kind of like what
trying to keep it upright. He says that somehow that keeps it.
Yeah, but it's the starting part that's the hard part. Once you get it started, yeah, you can see how my super hair is 90 degrees to the floor. It's straight up and down, and that's not too hard to do. I mean, it's starting it. That's just a royal pain.
Yeah.
But like I said, if you use your fingernail like that, I mean, I can get it to go every time. Then capture it, tie it off, clip everything off. Then I got to switch threads again. I got to get rid of that white and tie in my black. And I think in Charlie's book, he actually whip finishes the white cuts
Yeah.
it. For me, that's just an extra step I have to do that just takes up time, and I have to get another tool out, so I just wrap right over it, and it does.
That on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's just to make it easier on guys who are reading his book. Charlie, I don't know, I may be wrong, but I bet he probably just does the same thing I do, because it saves you an awful lot of time. But I don't know. Now I'm going to tie in the same type of flashbacks I used on that other fly, medium pearl. Where'd the tag end go? I have a magic spool of flashback here where the tag end magically disappeared. You can go to work on that for me. Maybe you can find the tag end. So instead of using medium, I have a thing of small here that I'll substitute. I think that one just maybe got dug under itself or something. So I tie in that flashback up on top, just like I did my other fly there. Now I'm going to use some floor fiber to use both on the casing and the legs. Charlie uses either white or gray for his casings, which is fine. I mean, that's what I've used for years, and it works just fine. But I've been starting to use some black. If you actually look at some of the mayflies crawling around in the water, the more natural color is going to be black or dark brown or something of that nature. I think Charlie uses, oh, you found it. Was it just dug under itself?
It's just laying real tight.
Oh. I think he uses the brighter color stuff just to add some flash, like a flash back. But I like to use black on the Jujubaetis. So I take a strand of, or a clump of, 15 to 20. I mean, a fairly healthy chunk. I like the legs to be a little bit more profound than other people do.
And what is that?
Fluorofiber. Yeah. And it's the same stuff you'll use on a Jujubaetis midge. Same thing. So then, now what I'm doing is I'm making a bit of a thorax. I'm covering up all my tag ends and building up a little bit of bulk, but not too much there. Then I take that chunk of floor fiber and I pull it forward. And I'm going to secure it just behind the eye with 3 wraps. Once I've done that, I'm going to pull the flash over the top. 1 wrap over the flash. Then I pull it back up over itself. Do a few more wraps. And I trim it. Now, I'm going to take this floor fiber and split it into 2 even clumps. And I always do my near side first, just easier for me. And I pull 1 clump to the side and I make 1 wrap over it to bite, and do a couple more to secure it. Then I pull the other clump on my far side and do some wraps to secure it as well. Now I'm pretty much done. You can actually whip finish at this point. Finish it off. But I don't trim the legs yet, and I have a reason for that. If I trimmed the legs right now and applied my UV on the top, what would happen is the UV would get all caught in the legs and be kind of a mess. So what I do is I kind of pull the legs down a little bit. Then I get my UV out and my bodkin out. And I put some on the tip. Now, while holding the legs down, I'm going to take that UV, just put a little bit on the back. Just
So
like
this stuff
that.
works just like the epoxy would, but you don't have to mix it up.
Yeah, it does. And to be honest with you, UV is great for demonstration purposes. For actual fishing purposes, UV isn't as good as epoxy. It does tend to fall off if you don't coat around the entire fly. So a fly like that buzzard that I just did, where I actually coated around the whole thorax, it works just fine. On something like this, where I'm just putting a little bit on the top, it doesn't really work so good in actual fishing applications. It'll tend to fall off, chip off, but it's a lot easier to work with when you're doing demos or you're just tying for fun. And it'll stay on for you know, a decent amount of time when you're fishing. But if you use it for several hours, I can guarantee you that piece will fall off.
So you're just trying to coat that flashback.
Yeah, the flashback and a little bit of the body too.
But if you circle the body, it doesn't.
If you did the whole thing, if you took it and UV'd the entire fly, it would be bomb-proof. It wouldn't come off.
So you're using that just to strengthen, or?
No, just to add some. I mean, you can see it gives
Like
it some
that air
lifelike.
bubble thing?
Yeah, can you kind of see it on the screen?
Little air
I mean,
guessing.
yeah. What it does also is it magnifies everything underneath. So if you look at the bottom, you can see it has real fine segmentation. If you look on the top, it kind of like just makes everything pop. It magnifies it, kind of like a little magnifying glass. So once I've done that, my UV's cured. I pull my legs back up a little bit. I like to have somewhat of an upward tilt. You can see they sweep back. And I'm going to trim them just past the thorax. Just like that. And that's a Jujubaetis. Probably hands down one of my most fished flies on the Platte.